Thanks for being here. Another episode of Living in Markham, where we find inspiring people, we find great businesses, entrepreneurs, and we tell their story. And today we may have a very special, inspiring guest. Well, I shouldn't say may have. I know certainly we have a very inspiring guest. I've been tracing her for some time, trying to get her to come in. And we have Wendy Dempsey here with SickKids Foundation and SickKids Hospital.
Nice.
And so you're welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Nice to see you, Ralph.
It's great to see you. And I know we've known each other for a number of years through our association with SickKids Hospital, the Remax Miracle Home program.
Yes.
And I've got a chance to get to know you and build a relationship over the years. And
Yes.
every time we connect, once a year, I'll bring my family and the team down to the hospital. We'll make a donation for the monies we've
Yes.
donated through the year. And it's always so inspiring to talk to you. So I'm happy to have you here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always great to speak with you, Ralph. And I always look forward to that one time a year that you come into the hospital and bring your family, and I get to give you an update and show you around and see where your money's going and the impact that you're having as well. All of this through amazing Remax partnership, by the way.
Well, you know what? It's cool because so for the people that are watching and listening, I mean, Remax has a program called the Miracle Home, Remax Miracle Home, and the idea is that when you are a Remax agent, you can opt into this program where a portion of the commissions collected or proceeds or monies earned goes to SickKids Hospital, and of course it's totally voluntary. The amount is discretional; the agent can decide. But what I think is really cool is kind of like, in the book The Wealthy Barber, they say pay yourself first. And I remember reading that when I was in grade 10, and I thought, well, okay, that's it. Pay yourself first. That's the key to success. And then my mind kind of shifted in my early 20s, where I realized how blessed we are overall. I think each of us are so blessed. And I thought, instead of pay yourself first, I want to pay others first. I want to pay contribution first. So since I've been selling real estate the last 17 years, the first monies that come in to the brokerage, our payment, the first monies go straight to SickKids Hospital. And that was the easiest way for me to eliminate it as a line item to consider. It was always like a non-negotiable because it was already gone.
Wow.
And
well, that's so powerful, Ralph. Thank you for that, because that's what sets our fire. That's what sets us on fire, is the generosity of people like yourself. And again, through our Remax partnership and the Miracle Home program, where agents can make a donation through their transactions. That's, again, is their discretion. But one thing I've learned working with Remax over the years is that full of generous people that do want to make a difference, really, truly do. And you're amazing to work with. You want to come into the hospital, you want to say, you want to see what's going on, and that's the best part of my job.
yeah, well, you know what? It was a great tradition we started, where we'd come in just in between Christmas and New Year's, somewhere around there. I know it's tough because it's also Christmas and New Year's for you as well, but we would do a brunch with our family. I say brunch meaning we just show up at 11, and it's not a fancy brunch. It's literally in the food court at Tim Hortons. We'll get a coffee and a bagel, and every year I sit there and I think about how grateful we are. Number one, that we're here voluntarily, but also how grateful it is that people like you and people like all the staff in the hospital are there to help so many families, so many kids in their time of need. And I mean, you want to talk about a humbling moment. You get to live it every day, but maybe you could tell people what the bravery breed.
For sure.
I cry every time I hear the story.
Oh my gosh. I think, you never get used to seeing or hearing stories that make you cry. I mean, I've been with the foundation for a number of years, so certainly it's very moving and can be sad. But you know what? Overall, I think it's a wonderful place of happy endings and hope. But we are a hospital. We're so grateful to have it here in Toronto because we're a global, one of the best, number 2 in the world. We'll get back to number 1. But we're second, number 2 facility in the world to treat patients. And last year, and to do research and to train. So we're a research institute. We're a tertiary care hospital. We are a learning institute. And last year, we had about 140 patients, which translates into about 140,000 patients, 500,000 visits. Kids and families coming in and out of our doors. Right. And it's just amazing that we have it here in our city. But you know what makes that hospital run really is our corporate partnerships, the generosity of all of our donors. You know, whether they're individuals, corporations, events, corporate gifts. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know that you have different campaigns, and sometimes they'll say, "Hey, you can sponsor, make a donation and give a teddy bear or do something
Yep.
like that." And I remember first seeing that, and I thought, "Well, I want people to get medicine." And the truth is, fundamental medicine is there. We have it.
Mhm.
This is like above and beyond care for someone that's probably doesn't have the emotional capability to look back to the little kids. Probably a teddy bear or a clown visiting the wing, or a visit from Santa near the holidays,
Yeah.
or NHL player coming in to meet with the kids. That's what's gonna lift their spirit.
Yeah.
And in some cases might be the difference between a kid that's really feeling down and someone that's on their way to recovery, right?
100%. We have an amazing team, our child life specialists, that do their very best to normalize the life of a child when it's a very difficult situation. And it could be, you might have children that stop speaking or stop eating, or because they're going through so many awful things, really. But these specialists will help make their world as normal as possible. Like you said, therapeutic clowns that visit, or special visits from our hockey team or our Blue Jays or something like that. Even to more serious things like
Went back to the idea of bravery beads. It's a bravery beads. To tell maybe a little bit.
yes, yeah. So the Bravery Bead program, if you're ever in the hospital and you see a child coming towards you that has ropes of beads around their neck, or sometimes they wear them as bracelets, every one of those beads is given to a child for a procedure that they've had to go through, whether it's from an injection to something more serious. And those kids wear those beads like badges of honor.
Sure.
They are so proud of themselves, and they should be. But to think that I've seen beads, I've seen upwards of 500 beads on a kid, on a patient. And that is, it's humbling for sure.
Yeah, I remember my first time walking through there. I was like, "This looks like Mardi Gras."
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing these beads. Yeah, and then someone explained
Yeah.
what they symbolize.
Yeah.
Man,
I know.
I was definitely humbled when you can see this little kid, 3, 4 years old, being in the right place. And I'm grateful. I don't want to make this conversation a sad story.
I know.
I wanted to make an inspiring story, because we can't control the circumstance people are in,
Right.
but you can definitely influence the care that they get.
100%. 100%. And that's what makes SickKids so special, because we put our arms around the entire family, not just the patient. And, in terms of influencing, I mean, that's what our donations do, right? It lights the way to the next research discovery, to, the better care.
And I think I misspoke when I said that we can't control the circumstance they're in. I misspoke, because from my understanding, the way they use it in terms of research and the development of technologies, the overall approach, like precision health, is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll chat about that.
Yeah.
But I think that you can influence people not having to come in, because you may have solved some element of healthcare or lifestyle, where maybe you realized through your research that they can simply take a pill, or they can give it the right path of health. And that's also being in the hospital. So you can influence, you can avoid the accident. You know what I mean?
That's what we want to get to. That's our goal, especially, we're on the eve of launching our next major campaign towards the end of this year. Precision Child Health, going to be a multi-year campaign. Our goal is going to be $2.5 billion. It's a 10-year campaign. And we're going to endeavor to do 3 things. We're going to diagnose faster, we're going to treat smarter, and we're going to predict better.
Unbelievable.
It is really unbelievable. It almost sounds like science fiction. But what we want to do is we want to stop one-size-fits-all medicine and treatment for kids. We want to look at everything from a child, but not just their postal code, their genetic code. Everything about where they live influences, how they're living, and which influences their health. So the idea that we could get to underlying causes of an illness, for example, if you take cancer, pediatric cancer, we don't want to have relapses. We don't want to have children have to come back for a different round or a different protocol of treatment. We want to be able to solve it and get rid of it and treat them once, and that's it. So that's not always the case. So that's just only one example. But wouldn't it be great if we could do genetic testing on every child? Every child. And so that is one of the goals of our campaign.
And what's really exciting about that is, I mean, you're getting to the kids first. You're like a beacon of inspiration, and hopefully money flows in to support the research you're doing. But you don't just hide your answer, you share your answer. And a lot of the things you've discovered resonates through other medical, institutions, like regular traditional hospitals around the whole world.
Yes, indeed.
I watched something recently on power tools were originally invented by NASA, so that obviously a cordless tool could be used by an astronaut. And you think, okay, well, I'm in the basement putting up sheets of drywall thanks to this innovation from NASA. And the same way that, SickKids Hospital is coming up with some brand new technology in health.
Yep.
Once they perfect it, maybe there's going to be a hospital in Africa that picks up this box of genetic testing that we can ship and say, here you go.
Indeed. Information technology in medicine is incredible. We are also using AI in our emergency rooms right now. And some people can be a little, can be scared of AI, but we're using it in such a way that is changing the way that we're able to see and treat and be prepared for patients in our emergency department. So it's used for predicting volume. So we have the right amount of staff on or not. We're always busy, but sometimes we're busier than other times. So we have the right amount of staff on. So we predict flow and volume of patient. And also, to be able to predict when a child is going to have a stroke, or that we have the crash cart close by, that we're not losing time and minutes when we have to call a code blue to get the right staff or the right equipment in the room. So we're using AI in that way, and that's just the beginning. Like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So it's incredible. And speaking of technology and learning and sharing, our simulation center is incredible. Like, surgeons can come in, take a 3D image of an infant's heart, for example. So you have a real, actual model of a child's heart that you're going to do surgery on, but practice surgery on that heart.
Wow.
And actually broadcast it to other surgeons or to your teams as a learning and just as a plan for surgery. So it's and this happens all the time now, and this is something SickKids is known for as well.
Oh, that's amazing. You don't want your child's heart to be the practice.
Exactly. I once went to a conference once, and they had a little box, and in the little box was a walnut. And over the course of discussion, one of the speakers said, "Oh, do you know what that represents? That's the size of a child's heart that they operate on." And that blew me away. That just blew me away. That
Living in your hand, that's the life of an infant.
Yeah. So many amazing things.
I remember my first interaction with SickKids Hospital, my first time ever going there. I don't know if you remember the story with my daughter. So Isabella and Julian, at the time they were maybe 1.5 and 3 years old, maybe 4. And Maria and I were just getting ready for wrapping up dinner. The kids were getting ready for a shower. And so they ran upstairs, got ready for the shower. They're naked. And while they're waiting for us, of course, like silly monkeys jumping on the bed. They're jumping on our bed, waiting for us.
Yeah.
And Julian pushed, allegedly, Isabella fell off the bed and fell back and broke her arm.
Oh, dear.
And so she came running, screaming downstairs. And I mean, if you have kids, listen to this, you know that feeling of like a real cry.
That cry
was not a sympathy cry.
No.
And she came down, and of course, it just pumped to the ground, right? I'm sitting there, I'm looking at her, and her arm is dangling, and she's a tiny kid, there's just skin and bones. And I looked, and I didn't see a broken bone, but I just saw like, it looked something to me like, is this okay, the shoulder?
Yeah.
And I played sports long enough, and I watched enough like sports movies where you see that coach count down backwards from 3, and then they just pop the shoulder back in, or whatever people do. And I remember I held onto her both sides. I said, "Okay, honey, I want you to count backwards from 3." And my plan was, at a second earlier, just give it a jerk to kind of pop it back into.
Yeah.
So I'm holding these little tiny arms, skin and bones, and she's screaming. I'm pumped with adrenaline, and I clinch. I go, Belle, I want you to breathe. I want you to count backwards for 3, 3, 2, and just as I was about to pull, I had a voice in my head, and I believe that it was God. But I had a voice in my head that said, "Don't do this," and I just immediately stopped.
Wow.
And like, there's all that momentum was like, just do it, let's do it, 3, 2, 1,
Yeah.
and I stopped, and then I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna bring her to the hospital." I wrapped her up into a blanket. I brought her to our local hospital. They took a look at her. They started to work with her a little bit. They said, "You know what? She's best off at SickKids Hospital. They need a specialist." So I literally wrapped her up in a blanket. She's totally naked. I wrap her up in a blanket. She's gonna hate I told the story, but I wrap her up in a blanket, throw her in the car, and we boogie to SickKids. And I remember immediately as we sat in the triage, she's sitting there, and the triage nurse says, "Okay, it's okay. You're okay. You're safe here." And she's just kind of looked at, she's like panicking. She's like, "That's okay." And her demeanor was just like, totally like a switch that's just like, it was like a hypnotist, just instant. And I remember her saying, "How's the pain? Is the pain like an ant or is the pain like an elephant?" And she's like, "It's like an elephant. It's like an elephant." And I thought, just that simple approach of, I'm speaking to, and she crouched down. She was face to face with my daughter, which, I've learned over the years, like, that's a much easier way to connect to people when you're on the same level, as opposed to in a, higher up chair, like the pharmacist. And, my daughter was there for a few days. They ended up doing a surgery where they put in a pin through her broken.
Is that right? Wow.
And a pin and some screws. We're there for 3 days, and as we leave, actually might have been 2 days, my daughter says, "Dad, can we come back here again tomorrow? This was the best day of my life."
Oh my goodness.
And I thought, this was the worst day of my life, and I never want to do it again. I thought, for an organization to be able to take what I thought was like catastrophic day, and for my daughter being like, so I was worried that she's gonna be traumatized her whole life from this, and she thought that we went to Disneyland. And I was like, well,
Isn't that incredible? And that's not an uncommon story, Ralph, to hear that child's reaction. Um, families talk about the care they receive there. You have to sort of be in it, and like you were, to understand how special a place it is and how special the staff are, and how everything comes down to the level of a child. Everything is about a child. We hear that all the time, though. With our wonderful patient ambassador families as well, that kids put up their hand to say, "Hey, I'd love to tell my story about sick kids," and share. And it's so inspiring and so moving. I remember one story, this little girl, she was well into an adult now, but she had to stay at Sick Kids for a number of days. And whenever she had to go for a procedure or something, they would come to her room with a little red wagon, and she would get in the wagon and they go all her along.
yeah.
Well, at some point, she was transferred to her community hospital. She was well enough to go to care closer to home. And she said to me, "I'll never forget, they came to take me somewhere and there was no red wagon." But she said, I'm not going unless I got my red wagon." But that's just a small example of how special the staff are.
The idea of giving at Walmart, and I know that they're a big corporate donor. And that's a good example. I mean, it seems like it's tricky, especially now with inflation, and being buying groceries or things seems expensive. But really, if something went on sale and you saved $1, or you spent $1 more, I don't know if that really counts a lot in the specific budget. But donating $1 or $2 again adds up as you start snowballing, right?
It certainly does. It all adds up. And in fact, we, SickKids Foundation, engaged in we undertook a survey last year through a third party. We wanted to know what Canadians were thinking, what's on their mind with sick kids. Do they know us? What do they know about us? And we had some really great tidbits of information come back, really wonderful facts that came through. 82% of Canadians are aware of sick kids. If there was only one charity that they could give to, that would be sick kids. Yeah, 100%. 90, I'm trying to pull the stats out of my head now. 93% of Canadians said that they think that corporations should give back, and 94% said they will work with an organization that aligns with their beliefs. And 90 said 90% of them said they would change organizations to work with work with a charity that they believed in, that they would go. So, and then the last stat. Now that I'm on a roll with stats, so now that I pulled the file up in my head, the last stat was that because of SickKids' positive brand attributes, by an organization working with SickKids, can increase the positive brand of your organization through the halo effect of working with SickKids. I think I said that correctly, which to us was like, wow, that's a very interesting, important stat that I want to share.
Right now, easy. Well, you know, that reminds me of two different thoughts. But one of my business leaders or mentors, Richard Robbins, always says that giving starts the receiving process. So it's interesting how that kind of turns around, and it's the same kind of idea that my grandfather used to say, which was, when you visit someone's home, you should knock on the door with your feet. And I said, no, why would I kick somebody's door? It doesn't make any sense. He goes, and he kind of gave me a nudge. He goes, because your hands should be full. He goes, when you start with the giving, and that was the idea. It's the same premise, which is I don't know if people's intent in giving to a charity like SickKids is to get the halo effect, but it's a nice kind of after.
No,
it's a byproduct of this.
Right.
So I think it's really more about values and feeling like it's not just a greedy, self-serving entity. It's actually someone that's there to support the community.
You're absolutely right. I would think we would, these are all brand new research for us, but I would think we would use those kinds of stats when we are trying to align with a new corporate donor to say, sure, this is why you should be working with SickKids.
Yeah. Now I remember there was a story Dr. Cohen had told about the insulin and the idea with diabetes, and there was a change that had taken place, or a discovery within the hospital. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do recall a story is about a little girl and her grandfather. In this particular story, and this is, again, it aligns with also precision child health, treat smarter and diagnose faster. So a little girl came in. She was, I think, around 2 years old, and showing signs of having type 1 diabetes, or was it type 2? I'm sorry, I get my types mixed up, but diabetes. But they thought she was a little bit young for the type of diabetes that she had, but with the family history, the father and the grandfather were taking insulin injections. And so it wasn't common practice back then, but they did a full genetic workup on that child. Because back then, I think it was something like it takes months and like thousands of dollars to do this kind of genetic workup on a child. But they did, given the family history. And then they didn't uncover diabetes. So they decided that they would look at the father and the grandfather, and they did some testing on them. And it turned out that this family carried a rare genetic disorder that, and I'm going to butcher this up, but they weren't processing their insulin correctly, but it was coming through like it was a diabetes. And so the dad and the grandfather for years had been taking painful injections daily. And it turned out all they needed was a pill. And that was uncovered. And then the same with the dog. The child carried that same unbelievable trait. And that's the kind of thing we want to be able to do for every child. Like, let's get to the underlying cause. Let's not do one size fits all. Let's look at the underlying causes of things. It's incredible what we can uncover. Of course, it's going to take donations and the community support, but that's why we have a big ticket campaign coming up. That's going to change. It's going to change healthcare we're going to change the world for healthcare.
I love that.
We're going to be we will, and I believe that. And we're going to change child health for everybody, for forever. I mean, talk about being 150 years old. I don't even know if I mentioned that yet. 150. Right. I was saying, what will the next 150 be? But yeah, we're going to
regulations have a 150 this year.
Thank you. That's right. So April 3rd is our actual 150th.
Oh, amazing.
I know, it's super. It's going to be such a fun year. We've got so many great things planned. So
tell us about the origin. So 150 years, what happened?
This is an awesome story. So a nurse by the name of Elizabeth McMaster, in 1875, rented a brownstone building on Avenue Street, which I believe was the old Avenue Road, and it had 6 rooms, and she put in 11 iron cots, and she called it the Hospital for Sick Children.
Now, 1875.
1875, and incredible. And our first patient was on April 3rd, so that's the day we're celebrating in 1875. It was a little girl who came in with some scalding or some burns on her arm. So we have a huge year because this is once in a lifetime. You get to celebrate that because the impact that SickKids has had around the globe. So I wonder, I often think, what would that nurse, Elizabeth McMaster, think just when she opened the doors 150 years ago, that it would turn into the pediatric institution, research institute, and hospital that it is today.
I'm sure she's looking down.
Oh my
I'm sure
gosh.
she's looking down,
Yes.
smiling.
Yes.
And you think about the impact of an individual, and when you magnify that over time, oh my gosh, so the world can change. And sometimes people, maybe anyone listening right now, I'll tell you, you can change the world. Maybe not in this moment, not 24 hours, but you can change the world. 150 years from now,
Right.
who knows what your decisions and your vocation or your passion or your taking a chance on something, why it might lead to. Because think about 1875.
I know.
I'm sure there's a lot of restrictions on, Elizabeth McMaster opening up her own place. I'm sure there was a 1,000 reasons or a million reasons
Yes.
why she should not do that.
Yes.
And
And
she should.
she fought to do that because she knew that children were not just little adults, that they needed specialized pediatric care. And so it just blows my mind when I think about that. I've seen some old archived photos of it. It just blows my mind to see how far we've come. But talk about changing the world. I mean, we're changing the world right now with every donation, with every act of kindness in there. The world is being changed as we sit here.
So you have a 150-year celebration this year. Tell us a little bit about what do you have going on?
Okay, so we got a number of things going on. We're going to have something called a balloon spotting moment. And so we have gathered 150 moments that have changed the world in some way through SickKids Hospital. So whether it's a research breakthrough or some change in life-changing, saving change to pediatric care. So it was hard, but they've been able to find 150 moments. We are going to have balloon sculptures set around Ontario, across the country, and indeed in some of our global sites as well, with a moment on it, a specific moment, and a barcode or a QR code rather, so that you can then go in and look at the full story behind that moment. So it's really interesting. We'll have sponsor logos on those moments as well. Like a moment can be SickKids, I think it's 1908. But don't quote me.
New build.
We started our own pasteurization clinic in the hospital 30 years before it became mandatory because children were getting very, very sick from not drinking pasteurized milk. So just a moment like that changed milk in the dairy industry, right? So, but then there's much more research and finding we found cystic fibrosis, the gene that causes cystic fibrosis, was changed, and people with cystic fibrosis live into adulthood now. Then prior it was teenage years. So those moments, they'll be set around the world. We're encouraging people to go online, read those moments, share their stories. Maybe they have a story of impact. So there's that. We're having the world's biggest birthday party June 7th at Nathan Phillips Square. It's open and free to everyone. You'll hear more about that, Ralph, as we get go forward.
Biggest birthday party.
Oh my gosh. So it's going to be a spectacle. So we'll have entertainment and food and activities. There's talk about hot air balloon. So there's good. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much, but it's going to be a big deal. We are going to have some of our retailers get involved with doing fundraising at the register.
Nice.
We are providing some collateral support, so anybody that wants to get involved, even Remax if they want to, can do some fundraising or set up their own fundraising page for SickKids 150. So it's a lot of great activity. We're going to have a multimedia campaign, think broadcast, digital, out of home. You're going to see that all year round. So we have something planned every month of the year. That'll take us up to launching our campaigns at the end of the year.
Something that I think is great and so inspiring in the way that you approach your work, which is to connect with people and help collect donations and bring it to the hospitals, is there's always something cool brewing. And I think that's awesome and really, really creative. Like the marketing ideas from the organization is unbelievable.
I tell you, our marketing to send people
The SickKids versus I thought was so emotional. And you know that as you're rolling out new campaigns, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, gosh. Well, we've got the smartest and brightest people on our brand and marketing teams and the agencies that they work with. But at the heart of it all, it's storytelling, right? It's storytelling and it's moving people and inspiring people. And I mean, sort of in a way that's Remax too, because you're getting involved helping people make some of the biggest decisions of their life. Could be their first home, it could be how to raise a family. And our goal is to put kids back home, get them back home, right? So it's about storytelling. Yeah.
Well, you know what? In the meantime, while they're having a sleepover party at the SickKids Hospital, you know, we want to make sure they're doing the best they can and getting the care they need.
I just want to say thank you. Oh, thank you to you, to Remax, to all of everybody that makes the hospital the very, very special place that it is. And we're so grateful to have it here in Toronto.
And if anybody wanted to connect with you or with SickKids Hospital as a brand or as an organization or SickKids Foundation, what's the best way? If somebody says, you know what, I want to do something, even if it's a grain of sand, and altogether these grains of sand build up to be a mountain.
Yes.
But what could somebody do? What's the best way for somebody to take action?
Well, there's a number of things you can do. I would first suggest you can go into our sickkidsfoundation.com website, and it says you can read a little bit about us, but there's also a place where you can donate, or you can set up a donation page. Maybe you can't make a donation, but you can inspire others to donate, and we have all the tools to help you do that. You can get in touch with me, which I would be happy to take your call or answer a note or do whatever I can.
You've always been accessible. You've been great at communicating. You know, not only the technologies that you guys are implementing, but also where's the money going. And I think that's important. I think there's a little bit of cynicism in the world where people will say, "Oh, I gave money to a charity, but where did the money go?"
Right.
And all you got to do is really walk through the hospital and say, "Again,
absolutely, 100%. It's very transparent, and you can also read our annual report online." Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, listen, Wendy, I appreciate you joining us here. You've been a great part of our team over the last number of years.
Oh, gosh.
Look forward to a future together.
Thank you so much, Ro. It's had a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Carry on to this next episode as we dive into inspiring stories here in Markham on the Living in Markham page. So look forward to connecting with you soon. Make it a great one.